I know it's in my own head. I'm like, what if
I
that person thinks a bad thing? What if that person? What if they
I
think a bad thing? Okay.
I think that what's even, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that what is even more scary for you, Sandy, is what will I think about myself if I don't do this should.
Wow. That's yeah. There's a nail in the. You hit it on the head.
Hi Sandy, how are you?
Hey, Tech. How you doing? I'm good.
Good. I'm glad you're doing well. I'm also doing well.
That's good.
So first of all, thank you for signing up for this. It was cool. I wasn't expecting to sort of like, I don't know, like see your name signing up for this. So it was cool. It was cool to see that. So
Does I totally seem like way too together to need like coaching or something?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. But what would you like to talk about today?
Well, the thing is that I always control the narrative in my world.
Yeah.
And so I've actually had this conversation like 19 or 100 or 73 times in my imagination. And yeah, like I'm just prepared to see how it goes or where it goes because yeah, I get told all the time I control the narrative and yeah, sometimes I just need to let go
I
a little
see.
bit.
I see. So it sounds like in your life, like you always sort of like have the you always have the control and always sort of like set how things are supposed to go. And it sounds like from what you're saying that like even conversations, like you'll run through them a bunch in your head in order to
Yes,
sort of like create the best possible outcome.
absolutely. And like if you ask my husband, anytime we have an argument, he says I don't listen. And it's like, no, I did listen to you. Those 17 times you told me in my imagination what you were upset about. It couldn't possibly be worse than what I've imagined. So I
Wow.
totally get it.
Gotcha. It sounds like you're quite good at it too. That like
Yeah.
you're so skilled at like sort of imagining conversations that like when you're having a conversation with your husband, you're like, yeah, I've already had this conversation.
Absolutely.
I I
With coworkers too. Yeah.
I see.
So one of my first oh gosh, I've been a manager where I work for about 12 or 13 years.
Okay,
And one of the first pieces of advice that I got from the previous manager that I'm still working on is talk less and listen more.
I see.
Because I will have entire conversations with someone else in the room and they don't talk at all. So,
I see.
but
Interesting.
that's not why I came here. I need you to talk to.
Well, the funny thing is, Sandy, like in this situation, like I think if I do my job right, you will be the primary one talking. So that this will be an interesting experiment. Um, so yeah, so like what I'm hearing is that it the that you're very good at this, but that it causes problems in your relationships where
I don't think it causes problems. I mean, I kind of laugh about it,
sure,
but more so like I, I don't think it causes problems. Most people like me a lot.
yeah,
Um, no, I also have sarcasm and humor as a deflection.
sure,
Welcome, welcome in, welcome to
sure.
my world. It's totally weird because this is like a two-way conversation, and I'm so used to it being
You're
just you and me like typing and
yeah, yeah. You're used to like chatting and then like waiting like 5 minutes and then I respond and then you
I'm like
type.
you're a real interactive character. It's like totally awesome. Anyway, um, so yeah. So anyway, no, I've absolutely really enjoyed listening to your little talks,
Yeah,
and yeah, it's pretty cool. Partly, I've enjoyed listening to other members of the community that maybe I just knew from text basically because we see your face, but we don't hear other people's voices. So hearing them and hearing them be vulnerable is kind of really awesome. And so
yeah.
I've been thinking about doing this for a minute, and every time I looked at the schedule, I'm like, oh no, I'm busy, no, I'm busy. And then I saw one, I'm like, hey, I'm free on Tuesday night, so
I can do that.
I can do that. And
Gotcha.
yeah, I've really enjoyed your community and the diversity because I mean I keep joking that I'm the oldest, and I really probably am. So um, yeah, there's just such diversity and such people are really vulnerable with you and really vulnerable with each other, and I really appreciate that. So I'm like, I can come on and be vulnerable.
Well, thank you so much for I feel flattered. And I'm curious, like you talked about like this sort of like running through conversations in your head and sort of like controlling the narrative and things, but then like when I sort of like asked you about like the effect that it had on your life, you're like,
Eh,
it's pretty good, it's
that's
fine.
good.
And so
No,
like, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's more control, and so if I've been focusing in on sort of anything that that this year is working on teaching me,
Mm-hmm.
it's about letting go of control. So you know some of it,
Yeah.
but for the listeners, for your famous listeners, this year has been a friggin' trip for everybody. I'm gonna try not to swear because I might share this with some people in my world, including my mummy. So I'm gonna
Oh,
try not
okay.
to swear, but I might swear.
Okay.
I might. Mom, if you're listening, I might swear.
Okay.
Um, but so obviously, well, not obviously to everybody. So uh, in well, the pandemic hit all of us in 2020, and just as the pandemic was swinging along merrily, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and by that time, I'd found the Twitch community. I'd found you guys, so I had a good distraction and good fun. Um, went went through the breast cancer treatment, the scans, whatever. So early in the scans, also found out that I had thyroid cancer. So that was a big, lovely, lovely surprise.
I didn't
Um,
know that part.
yeah, because it's like the sub headline because it really was not the hardest part of my treatment, if that makes any sense. Like thyroid cancer, independent in itself, is pretty simple. If I had only had thyroid cancer, it would have been like surgery and then a month of this special diet that you can't eat salt and then um, or iodine of any kind and then a medication that makes you feel crappy for a couple weeks and then that would have been it.
Okay.
But the two cancers were not related. I'm just one of those really lucky people that they happen to have two at the same time.
Super lucky.
Super lucky. It was just, well, I mean, once and done. Go in, get it all done, and get it all out. Um, But the breast cancer treatment was a real shit show. Um, for what it's worth, people have went through a lot worse than me. I met people that went through worse than me, but the whole year was about not having control. The whole year was about other people having control of my world. Um, Luckily, or not luckily, I don't know. But while I was busy resting and while I was busy not having control, the whole rest of the world paused too. So I didn't miss anything super cool. There was no great concerts. There was no like magic things happening. Um, but yeah, like I had to let go a lot of control of the home. Like my husband did so much around the house, you couldn't believe it. I couldn't control the outcome of all the medical stuff. Um, I had to step away from work. Luckily, had great benefits at work. Stepped away from work for like 9, 10 months. Didn't have control of that, so now I'm back at work, sucking all the control back at my work. Um, well, it was nice to be missed. It was nice to go back to my full time job and be like, hey, look, there's stuff I did that no one else did. And then now, like, basically exhausted through the ringer. I'm back to full time work as of like this week, and my photography business, which is kind of cool because honestly, photography is this like really hard side hustle in today's digital world. Like everybody, not everybody, everybody thinks they can do it. Not
Mm-hmm.
everybody can. I've been at it since before digital was a thing. But I've never done it full time, and there's a lot of self-esteem tied up in it, as you know, and any content creation, any art creation, anything that requires other people to pay you and validate. So I wasn't really sure where that was going to go after all of my diagnosis, and I have actually had a pretty, not really busy fall, but a pretty, productive
Steady
fall for
flow.
photography. Yeah. So I had clients that I loved that called me, and I was happy. So all that to say, it's been like a year where my whole life got turned upside down, and I'm kind of struggling with how busy I want to be, what I want to pick back up again, um, what is important, what brings me everything brings me joy. I love everything, so it's really hard to be like, hey, I want to do it all, but I just only have about 50% of the energy I used to have. So
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
have curly hair. I mean, you never saw me before, you see me now, but I look at myself and I'm literally freaked out that I have dark curly hair because before cancer I had long pink hair and it didn't come back pink and it's really weird. And they
Was
won't
it
let me color it.
was it curly before?
No, no.
Fascinating.
I know cancer's a frickin' trip. I'm
It,
gonna
it
tell you, it's just a frickin' trip.
yeah. Yeah,
It,
it's awful. Really like the treatment is what's so like awful about it. I mean, obviously, like if you don't treat it, then you'll die, and that's worse. But
that's
like,
bad. Dying was not my objective at
yeah,
all.
but yeah, like all the stuff that the treatment does, really, like, ooh, it's a mess. So,
Yeah.
um, first of all, thank you for sharing all that.
Mhm.
That is intense. Um, and then I'm curious about like, so like from what I heard you say was like that the sort of the thing that you're going through right now that's really sort of like hampering you is that you're very much used to having control, and this year you sort of had that control taken away from you. But like really like the hardest part from what I heard is that like now that you're in a position where like you should be able to take back control, you're still sort of at like 50%. Like there's just not as much that you can do, and sort of like surrendering to that is like incredibly emotionally
One
difficult.
100%. And the fact that you said surrender, um, yeah, it's like you're in my head, Tech. It's absolutely like you're in my head.
I do this for a living.
I know. So so part of the reason I control the narrative. So I work full time with adults with disabilities.
Okay.
I am a manager now, but I've spent a lot of years working with people that are nonverbal or partially verbal or use different language or communicate in various ways. So I'm also a really intuitive communicator. So I mean maybe that's what I enjoy about you and your content is you really are very intuitive. And I'm flipping the conversation again, but about that's what I did. But
But you catch yourself in it, which is great.
well, I in the 25 years I've been doing what I do, I've studied a lot of behavior psychology and a lot of so I'm pretty good at analyzing what I do. I know. Um, but the surrender. Sorry, I also I am a rabbit trail. Um, Surrender is this huge word for me.
Yeah.
Um, I am you the lewd weeb atheist. I am actually a person of faith, but obviously very liberal,
Yeah.
inclusive, all loving person of great faith. But there was a song that I sang at my church like many years ago when I was going through something, and it was about surrender.
Yeah.
And absolutely that word like resonates with me in such a deep way, is like you just have to surrender to God, surrender to family, surrender to love, whatever it is that you find
Hmm.
that gives you surrender or gives you peace. But that's so hard for me.
Yeah.
It's so hard for me to surrender
Yeah.
to anyone.
That feels really significant to me.
Hmm.
That like I'm curious about how that journey has gone in your life, because it sounds like that you have in many ways surrendered, that you have like surrendered to God in a really like positive, impactful, meaningful way, and that you have surrendered to family and love in all of these really positive ways. And so I'm curious, sort of like looking in the past, like what were those surrenders like while you were going through them?
Um, I mean, in some of the silliest little ways, like, um, I would be ridiculously stubborn about things that I didn't have to be stubborn about. Like
Hmm.
I would go downstairs. I live in just a bungalow, but we've got a basement laundry. So I'd be going downstairs, and at the worst of my treatment, the chemo knocked me so much that walking the stairs was actually really hard for me. And I went downstairs with my laundry that was dry, but when I went to bring it up, wet laundry to go hang it outside, I literally was just struggling to get up the stairs. But when my husband, my dear, wonderful, loving husband, said to me, here, let me take that for you. I'm like, what do you think I am? Incapacitated? I can totally do this. And he's like, oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Um, and yet another day, if he didn't do it, I'd be like, why aren't you carrying my laundry for me? You should be helping. So I can't say I was the best patient, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I did surrender. I'm having a weird disconnect in my brain. I feel things very deeply for other people.
Yeah.
I usually feel things very deeply for myself, but I think the only way I coped this year was by not feeling everything.
Okay.
And so I'm finding myself feeling it now as I'm like, it's safe. Now it's safe. Like I lived. Spoiler alert, I lived. I made it. There is very little chance that I'm going to die of this now. It's like, COVID is actually more of a present threat for me today than breast cancer.
Congratulations.
Yay. Yeah. Got my vaccines. I'm good though. But yeah, like it's surrendering now. When I was really sick, I had no choice. Like when I was so tired that I had trouble carrying the laundry, like it was pretty easy to just say, no, you can do it. But I'm not a person that likes to be dependent on anybody. I'm pretty tough. I went through a divorce from my first husband in like 2004.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I was like, I am never depending on one other person in my whole life ever again. I can do this. I got my shit together. I can buy a house. I can raise my children. I mean, my ex-husband's very involved in my kid's life, but who are adults now, by the way. That's pretty cool. But
yeah,
and my boys were awesome. Like they did so much stuff for me. I wanted to not. No one ever wants to be a burden on their own kids. Like I did not want my kids worrying about me.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I don't. Right now is the hard part of surrender though, because like you said, I'm about 50%, but I want to be 100%, and not being 100% is more annoying than being 0%. Like 0% is fine. Everybody understands 0%.
Mm.
It's the what can I do, what can I not do, what do I have to say no to because I don't have time to do it now or don't have energy to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Most nights go to bed at 8:30 at night kind of thing, which is sort of pre-cancer, pre-COVID. I sang in 2 choirs. I was often in community theater. I was doing photography, doing a full-time job. I'm trying to think what else I did. Taking Spanish lessons, like traveling. And now I'm just like, okay, well, can't do all that anymore.
Yeah.
Can't do that anymore.
Yeah, Sandy, you're incredibly rich. Like you give me so much to work with. Like there's so much information. It's great.
I've had a freaking long life. I've done a lot of stuff.
It's lovely. It's lovely.
And I talk a lot.
I love it. I talk a lot.
Talk a lot.
So one of the if I can just sort of like bite off a piece and look at it.
Please do.
One of the pieces that I'm curious about to sort of, because really like what I'm hearing you say is like, Tack, like if you can help me in any way deal with this, like accepting that like I'm at 50% now and like I just got to be okay with that. That would be great. So to sort of like try to take a first step in that direction. The first piece that I think would be sort of interesting to look at is that I'm hearing this. When you told that laundry story, I think it was a really great story of that, like, like you were struggling to get up the stairs and your husband like came to help and you're like I'm not incapacitated, I can do it, but then like you sort of like threw in like later on at random times. You would have these moments where like you'd be trying to do the carry laundry or whatever, and you'd be like, husband, why aren't you carrying this for me? And so like I'm curious about like that sort of like dichotomy in the mind of like what makes the difference, like on one day or the other, like what's happening there?
Listen, if I could figure that out. I don't know. Like I almost think that on the days where I'm the weakest, I want to push through and be the strongest.
Okay.
So like that day I was really struggling. It was off. Like I was like, I'm going to do it because this is, damn it. This is the only thing I'm going to do today. And I'm going to do it and nobody's going to stop me. I have to prove I can do it. the days where I'm like in the middle, where I could be like, well, I could do it, but it's just hard. And even now, I mean, gosh, I did dishes last week, and I went, oh my goodness, this is the first time I've done the dishes in like a year, because my husband is wonderful. I'm just praising him. He's in the other room. I don't know if he's listening, but and yeah, like he really did look after me. Which is just weird because I'm the caregiver. Like, I am the caregiver of my people and of my world. And so I don't know. It's weird.
Hmm.
It's weird. And like I said, right now, where I can like sort of I can go to work all day and be super capable and give all my energy at work, and then just get home and I don't even have energy to eat dinner some nights. I mean, I just um so
That's
yeah, I don't know what makes the difference in the day that I want him to help and the day that I don't.
okay.
I'm thankful he listens. Um, I mean, the same with my kids. They'd come over and offer things and all the um whatever jobs that they do, and then you know some days they'd some days I'd let them help me, and other days I'm like, no, it's all good. I'll make you a snack. Come on over, mommy, make you a snack, and I'll be good.
Yeah.
So,
And Sandy, it sounds really hard. It sounds really hard
oh
to
yeah,
like have been the caregiver, the caretaker, the capable one like all your life, and then like all of a sudden like you can't do it. Like that sounds. I totally get why that's something that you're struggling with, because it sounds incredibly difficult. Um,
hmm,
you said that it it feels weird.
it does.
Can you tell me a little bit more about what weird means to you?
Um, well, my whole body is weird. Like, nothing is the same.
Hmm.
Um, Things I could do, I can't do.
Yeah.
Things that didn't hurt before hurt now.
Yeah.
Um, there's like a lot of luckily, I mean, breast cancer, I got to keep my whole body mostly intact, but there's scars a lot of places, and medicine and technology has come a long way. That I'm good, but I have scars. I have limited movement in my right arm. It doesn't go all the way because of the surgery scars right here. Um, I started doing yoga recreationally. Like, I always went to yoga classes here and there, but I literally started doing yoga every morning. Some mornings it was 5 minutes of shavasana on the back deck. Some days I'd be 30 minutes hard. Most days I do about 15 minutes. But it's
Mm.
it's literally my body stopped being my body, and I
Mm.
had to get back to it. Um, I had to make it move. Around the same time I couldn't walk up the stairs, I bent over to pet a puppy, and I couldn't get up off the floor without help. That's like so humbling, and I was gonna say humiliating, but I mean, maybe that's the word. But um, yeah, like, I had to have a lot of humility this year. So,
Yeah. Um, Sandy, I'm sort of noticing like a theme here that I don't think that I saw before until just now, which is that like it really seems like it really seems like this is about like identity for you. That like you in so many ways, like your body and like functionally, and just like in all of these different ways that you feel like a different person. But then there's some part of you that still feels like the same person. And so like the conflict between those two things is just like it's like you woke up in a different house.
yeah, yeah, I think that's kind of it. If you think of your body as your temple or your body as your house, I literally woke up. Um, I in the midst of sort of the struggle, I just plowed through. Like, it's like, take the medicine, go to chemo, get through, throw up again, do this again, be tired again. Um, all of those things, like, just do them and don't even process, because I couldn't. I mean, I tried. I tried to be present. I tried to, like, know what I was doing, be conscious, be aware, um, take a few drugs when I needed to. Sometimes I didn't want to be aware. Sometimes I just want to take the drugs.
That's
Take
fair.
the medication. The PRN, please.
I think
The PRN.
sometimes that, I mean, that's why they're there, right? That's
Yeah.
sometimes they're necessary.
But yeah, to just sort of wake up and be like, okay, I don't look, I look the same. I mean, I look the same some ways, but my head's not the same. My hair's not the same. My body is not 100% the same. I've got pretty good body image stuff, but suddenly I've got, like I said, I've got really bad scars. I mean, I know why, like unconsciously in my head, I know why, and I know they're okay.
Yeah.
I have always admired other women. I've actually had a couple other older friends survive breast cancer. I know what the scars are. I totally celebrate them, but on me, it's like, but wait, but that's me.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be vain about it. Oh my God, I don't want to be vain about it. Like, I feel so vain when I say these things, but also having my thyroid removed, I still haven't yet felt the 100% fullness of that, but I'm pretty sure I had a dysfunctional thyroid because I only lost about like 30 pounds with chemo sickness, but the weight just kept falling off my body, and I'm eating vegetarian, but I'm not eating like healthy all the time. So
Gotcha.
I think my thyroid, like, that's different. Being on medication every day is different. Nothing is. Oh, and spoiler, you're a boy, you're a young boy, but like I have to be on a hormone blocker, so suddenly I'm an old woman. Like I don't, like menopause. I keep hitting my table. I'm sorry. Um. So yeah, it's identity. Yeah, I think it is identity.
Yeah, and I'm noticing that, but like I was sort of talking about like those two different parts of you that are sort of at odds. One part of you is like different, and then the other part is like, wait, no, like I'm still Sandy. Like, well, I don't know what's happening. And I'm noticing like as you describe things, like you said, like I notice these things on my body, and I don't like them, but like I don't want to not like them. Like I don't want to be vain. Like or it's humiliating. Like, oh, like maybe I shouldn't say humiliating, but like it's humiliating. Like it's like there's these two people are fighting inside you. I don't know who they are, but like there's two
So,
people that are that are fisticuffs right
well,
now.
as I said, I was a person of faith. I also have like funny little things, and my little understanding of the zodiac is that I was born on the cusp of Gemini and Cancer, which
Mm.
makes me highly empathetic, but also always of two minds.
Mm.
I was also raised. My father passed away in 2018, but he was 100% the debater and the devil's advocate. So he taught me to be so tolerant of other people,
Yeah.
in that whatever opinion I had, he would take the opposite point of view, make me defend my point of view, but also see the other point of view.
Mm.
And so that's also like, again, like I can say, oh, I hate the scar on my body, I hate the way it looks. Oh, but I should be proud of my body, and I survived breast cancer, and the scar is like celebratory, and
Yeah.
oh, but it doesn't look like my body.
Yes. So what's really wild here, Sandy, is that even in that, I am still hearing the the argument. Like I'm hearing like my dad gave me this gift of like tolerance and like being like a really tolerant, accepting Christian human being, and at the same time he also gave me this curse that I'm constantly arguing with myself. Like I,
Yeah, kind
um,
of.
and so what, what do what do we do about that? How do we, what, how do we sit down at the table with those two?
My brain is a very noisy place, Tech. It really is.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
very noisy place.
and I think that it sounds like that's the suffering. Like
Yeah.
if you were just incapable and you were like, ah, I'm incapable, like you'd be fine. Or if you were just, if you were just capable and that was it, and you'd be fine. But like the suffering is really that you're like all of these things are happening, and then there's everything that happens. There's this other voice that comes in and says, no, it shouldn't be that way. No, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah. I have a lot of shouldn'ts in my life also, not just here, but yeah, I shouldn't depend on others. I shouldn't be weak. I shouldn't be lazy. Um, it was when I was really sick, it was easy, honestly, to lay on the couch and play Animal Crossing and just be like, I'm sick. I'm laying on the couch and playing Animal Crossing. It's really hard now to be like, I worked all day. Now I'm going to go play Animal Crossing, or I'm just going to lay down and watch TV because, as you know, like there's a million things to do in life for everybody, not just,
Yeah.
I don't live in a sexist home. It's not all my job. It's my husband's job too, but there's just, yeah, it what used to feel like recovery, I'm now at the almost energy point that it feels like lazy some days. I've been so indoctrinated with don't be lazy, be busy, be, I'm a mom. I raised kids. I grew up in a farm family. Like nobody's lazy. Nobody just sits around doing nothing. Everybody does stuff. You have to be busy. So it's
Yeah.
kind of a weird place to be. I mean, and I think the in some ways the pandemic affected that almost as much or more than cancer because the social part of my life was taken away to a degree.
Yeah.
Um, like the conversations in my head got louder because the people that I normally reflect my conversations with all the time just weren't there as much. Um, like I live in a small town. COVID numbers were really good here. Um, we weren't locked down all the time, and I have family that lives within 5 kilometers of my house, so it was pretty easy to bubble up and sit outside and be whatever. But um, yeah, like um, yeah, trying to pick up the pieces, and I will for the record, I am going to therapy soon.
Good.
I've had a lot of pieces to pick up because obviously a lot of pieces. So first, you get the real health underway, and then back to work stuff, and then I'm doing physiotherapy, and I'm doing, I don't know, other specialists. There's also follow heart specialist I had to see, and there's so many doctor's appointments. And
Yeah.
now like
A
finding
world.
time for therapy.
Yeah, worldwide pandemic followed by two different types of cancer definitely would make a lot of pieces for sure.
Just a few.
Yeah.
Just a
And
few.
so like I'm I'm hearing like it's cool, Sandy, because you are very perceptive and like look at yourself a lot. Introspective is the word I was looking for.
Yeah, I look at myself a lot. I'm looking at myself right
Yeah.
now.
You do a lot of my job for me, and so like I can
I'm
just sort.
trying not to. I'm really
No,
like
it's great because then we
I
can sort of.
benefit I benefit so much when I shut up and listen to what other people hear.
You're
So
doing great. And so like what's nice is that it allows me to sort of like speed run things at certain points because like I can sort of skip steps that I would go through with others that like you just sort of intuitively get, and so then we can like get to other stuff.
oh yes,
Um,
I've told you just briefly, like I've listened to your other podcast and I'm like, I wonder if he's going to mention that they reflected on oh yes he did. Yes he did. He reflected on that.
Perfect. And so one of the things that I heard in what you just said is sort of like a tying together of like the two things that we've been talking about, which is like the identity piece and like the capacity piece. And that is that like it really sounds like, Sandy, like with the shoulds and everything, that you are defining your identity by your capacity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it totally makes sense. Hmm.
And so,
My identity is my work. My identity is my art. My identity is my people.
yeah,
And if I'm not those things for those people, if I'm not if I'm not out in the world doing my work, what am I?
yeah.
What am I? Yeah.
What are you, Sandy? Without those things, what are you?
I'm a lot. Um,
I
yeah,
agree. I
I'm a lot.
100%. I agree that you're a lot, and I don't mean I don't know if you mean that negatively, but I definitely don't mean that negatively.
I mean it. I mean, I am a lot. I am not. Even like part of me laughing about not having pink hair is I'm not a normal.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I ain't no normie.
I'm no normie. Please stop looking at me like I'm a normal person. I need to do something. Yeah, like in some ways I know all that I am.
Mm-hmm.
Like I am a mother. I am a wife. I'm a grandmother. I'm a grandmother now.
Congratulations.
Grandma. Um, it's just separating what I do for those relationships from what I am in those relationships. And it's such a weird conversation in my own head because, like, literally, it is a gift for me when I serve other people. My entire job is about, you're unable to do this, teach me how to do it with you or for you or help you do it, whatever it is you need. I love to provide your needs.
You love to surrender.
No, I don't love to surrender. I love to provide other people surrender. I want them to surrender to me.
I see. I
want to be the puppeteer.
Yeah.
Yeah, like in some ways I'm pretty happy with myself. Like I'm very and I'm amazed by the human body, but I'm also amazed by my own body because I saw how bad it got and then it just fought its way back. Like to see well, not to be too graphic, but radiation burns are not pretty. And then to be like, oh, but that healed. Like that healed. Like it's an actual physical, like I could watch it heal. To one day, like I said, not to be able to like barely get up off the ground, and then to be like I had the tools. I've spent most of my life gathering the tools I needed to be where I am today. Like I totally believe like in that sort of surrendering to a higher power, but I also say, well, yeah, but God gave me tools, so I better get my shit together and use them. Like I just, you know, I mean, Jesus will help me, but also, you know, here's all the things.
Yeah. Yeah.
He doesn't need to send some clouds and things. Like he's like, but you know, you have a doctor and I taught you how to do yoga because you had a yoga teacher and you should do those things. So like I was really impressed with myself that I was like, okay, well, I can't get up off the ground. Well, that sucks. So what am I going to do? So, you know, like I said, some yoga was like 5-10 minutes of just shavasana. And that was, okay, I did yoga today because I breathed really deeply and I consciously. But other days I would just, you know, walk up and down the stairs 10 times. You know, once when I could and then twice and then 4 times and then 10 times. Sometimes I would just, with yoga, I would just, you know, go from standing down to plank and then back to standing again. And then I took up paddleboarding, actually, this summer, stand-up paddleboarding, just because, you know, I'm like, I need to do something different and a new challenge. And so I'm really proud of some things that I did because I never thought I could do that. And because I was sick with cancer, nobody was going to judge me if I did it wrong.
Right.
Like, oh look, the cancer lady fell off the paddleboard. We can't make fun of her. She's the cancer lady.
Right.
So it was easy to try something new, but
yeah. Sandi, you do an incredible amount. Even at 50%, you do an incredible amount. Like if we, I mean, you know, like it's not good to compare or whatever, but like if we look at it comparatively, like you do an incredible amount at 50%. But like compared to 100% Sandi, which is really what the problem is, compared to 100% Sandi, it doesn't feel like enough.
No.
And so like I hear what you're saying, that like you're happy with yourself and there's like lots of things that you're really proud of. And at the same time, like I wonder, are you happy with yourself without any of that capacity? Like are you happy with like when you do? It's so interesting because like when you do like 5 minutes of shavasana, what I'm hearing is that the satisfaction that you get out of that is you're like, okay, I did yoga. It may have only been 5 minutes of shavasana, but I did yoga. And it's not, oh, like, I sat with myself for 5 minutes and didn't.
No, I did a task.
I did a task. That's what it was.
I did it.
Check it.
Look at me. Check it out.
Check it off.
have to put it in my phone and tell my health app that I did 5 minutes of yoga today.
That's right. Yeah, I am 99% less likely to do any sort of workout if I don't get credit for it with my Apple Watch. There's no way. Yeah, absolutely. And so like,
yeah, so the mindfulness part of yoga is a constant struggle, because in those moments of Shavasana and quiet meditation, it is so, like, my brain is such a loud place. And I've actually spent a lot of this year walking with my dog and listening to podcasts, and like obviously yours recently.
thanks.
And yeah, realizing I'm this diagnoser of others, but yeah, like I've discovered this year, well, I discovered prior to this, so lots of things happen that aren't relevant, but I was realizing that my anxiety reactions were really, really strong. I am probably, and I don't want to self-diagnose myself, but I'm probably a very high-functioning anxiety, have a very high functioning within an anxiety disorder. Like I was talking about, like being in choirs, I swear I have, like, everything I've ever done on stage. I did stand-up comedy for a couple of years, a million years ago. I did, like, I've done theater, I did singing, I sing solo, I sing in groups. Every single time I go on stage, even before this, like, oh my goodness, not like anxiety level attack. Today wasn't too bad, but some days before I do things, I just can't breathe for like the hour before I do it, and then I get on the stage and I'm like, sparkle.
Of course, yeah. That's the performer, right?
But my family doctor, who sadly moved away just before COVID, but just as all this happened, we were in the process of discussing what parts of my anxiety should benefit from therapy, or dialectical behavior therapy, or you know, coping strategies, and what part of that anxiety might benefit from being medicated. And then, of course, as we're piecing all that together, I had a couple of post-traumatic stress things related to my dad. My dad's death was very lovely and peaceful, but he spent years on oxygen. So when I had a sleep apnea machine, it has, like, it's like getting air. So, like I said, it's now the thing that helps me sleep. But for a while, it was like, oh my God, I'm gonna die just like my dad because I can't breathe. And I say that lightly. My dad had a ridiculous sense of humor, so it's totally, like, I have a dark humor just like him. So so
like you said, it's how you cope.
It's totally how I cope. I can laugh about anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, like, I've been dealing with whether I need to talk about that, but then along comes cancer and a pandemic, and it's like, well, all of my anxiety is explainable. It makes sense to be anxious when you're going for cancer treatment. Oh, you're going for chemo? Yeah, you should be anxious. That's normal. Okay, so what's normal anxiety, and what's... Because, like, the other thing is, in the midst of that, I don't look anxious. Like, I went for this one procedure, and the doctor said, oh, this one's going to be an easy one. You probably won't need sedation. I'm like, are you kidding? I only got here because you were giving me sedation. He's like, you look calm. I'm like, oh, I look calm. Oh, I look calm.
This is the look of a woman on the edge.
I'm ready to get off the chair. It's only because I'm a mature human with coping strategies that I'm not punching you and getting off the chair right now. You're going to give me sedation, right? Like, I had to get 4 little tattoos for radiation. Cried on the table for 4 teeny tattoos, and, like, I sit for 6 hours to get a tattoo, and it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
4 little tattoos make me cry because anxiety, not anxiety.
Right.
Choice, not choice.
Right. Yeah.
So.
And so... Oh, poop.
So I've taken you in a whole random... I am very random.
No. I think I just... I think we were going in a great direction. I just lost my train of thought. Hold on. It'll come back to me. Okay. So the first thing that I want to say is that I think that it's very good that you're, like, you were going through those stages of, like, you know, I got the cancer under control, like, I went back to work, and, like, now I'm like looking at mental health. I think that it's good that you're looking at like going to see like a licensed therapist, because what you said about like, how do I know like what is like normal anxiety and what is like diagnosable anxiety? What I have been taught by people that are much smarter than me and that like are actually licensed professionals is that if you ask that question, you should go see a professional and make sure.
And I know, because I also am in the role in my full-time job
Where you tell people the same thing.
100%. But the thing is that being older than you, I've lived in this brain my entire life. Like,
Yeah.
literally nothing has changed in my brain in my entire life. When I reflect, when my friend's daughter was diagnosed with sensory processing disorder, anxiety disorder, I'm like, oh yeah, oh, I totally get it. Oh, you can't wear a shirt like that? Oh, well, I can't wear, I have to take my tags out of my shirts. Oh, you don't like that noise? Oh yeah, when I was a kid, I used to like go hide in my bedroom when my dad drove the tractor in the driveway, because the noise was hurting my body. And oh, the tractor noise doesn't hurt everybody's body? Okay. So it's only kind of been like things that were not diagnosed in my old-fashioned 70s and 80s life. That also because I was, I mean, I had a wonderful idyllic, like I'm an idyllic childhood. I was happy. I am happy. My, even on my like down days, my default setting is I'm pretty happy. I'm just pretty happy and pretty anxious, and I'm pretty happy and pretty controlling and stressed out about most things. I'm pretty happy, and the tags in my shirt are bothering me right now. Like, that's it's just that I cope better than some people. Pretty
Beautifully
happy,
said.
but please give me that medication, doctor, that, I'm not going to let you scan my body until you give me medication to make me calm on the table.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. Oh, Sandi. So, Sandi, I think that, so like, I don't know. If we were going to continue to work together privately, I think that a lot of like what we would delve into is all of the shoulds. I think that and all
you try being a pretty little girl raised in a Christian family, and
Yep.
I don't mean that in a bad way, in a church-going family. I was not a pastor's kid, but I say I was pastor adjacent.
Yeah.
It I did all of the things I should do.
Right.
And for the most part, I agree that I'm like, yeah, those were good choices. Like, it's just, even now I'm like evaluating what is the shoulds for me versus what is the shoulds because what will other people say. I'm such a friggin' people pleaser. I don't like people to say bad things.
I don't even know at this point, Sandi, I don't even know if the other people are really the ones placing shoulds on you. Like, even the like fear of like, what other people will think if I don't do this.
I know, it's in my own head. I'm like, what if that person thinks a bad thing? What if that person? What if they think a bad thing?
I think that what's even, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that what is even more scary for you, Sandi, is what will I think about myself if I don't do this should.
Wow, that's yeah. There's a nail in you hit it on the head.
And so, because, this is like an hour-long video, and like, I want to like come to some sort of like loose resolution for you. Again, like, I think, first of all, I think that like, going to see a professional is a great idea, and I'm not worried about that, because
it's always a great idea for everybody. I am literally saying everybody should talk to a therapist at least a few times in their life.
I agree, and also I'm not worried about it with you because I think that you're incredibly capable. Not to inflate that
I am.
But
No, I am. I really am very capable of a lot
yeah,
of stuff.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think that to sort of like put a little bow on this, like I think that you have to try to stop. You have to like purposefully not do things that you should and sit in that. And it's gonna suck. And you're gonna hate it. Because here's the thing. It doesn't count when you are absolutely incapable. Because like you said, when you're at 0%, like you can't do it, like it's easy then. And so like it starts with like training wheels. Like it starts with you saying like, okay, like I can't not do everything. I have to push myself harder than I can at my work. Like I can't give that up yet. And so it starts small. It starts with like, hey, I should empty the dishwasher tonight. I'm not going to. And then you just like sit in that horribleness that you feel, and you're just like, oh, I hate this. This is awful. And then like you have conversations with people that you love and your therapist, and if we continue to work together, we have conversations about how you felt about that and about what it says about you as a person. What does it say about Sandi as a what does it say about Sandi's identity that she should have emptied the dishwasher and she didn't do it because she was tired from work?
And so, to some degree, the physical tasks are symbolic. It's well, you would be proud of me because so with photography, there's a lovely family that client, and it just I adore her and I adore her children. So I picked a fall family photo session for her, which I totally enjoyed, exhausted but totally enjoyed. And then she's like, "Hey, so you're back at it. Do you want to do Christmas minis with me and 7 of my friends?" And I was like, yeah, probably I should. Yeah, I should, because that's business, and that's my business, and that's my and they would be happy, and people would like me, and oh, and I said yes. And then the next day, I texted her back. I said, "Sorry, no, I love you, but I literally no, I can't." So that was a I should. It would be good for my business if I should, and I didn't. So that was a baby step I did last week.
Totally. And what was that like for you? How'd that feel?
Oh, I still feel bad about it. Like, I'm still thinking about all of the cute children I'm not photographing. I'm still thinking about all of those mom contacts that I could have and cash in for next year when I'm more energetic. And yeah.
And I'm gonna ask a question that I think I asked sort of rhetorically before, not rhetorically, which is like, what does it say about you, Sandi, that you didn't take that gig?
Well, my full-time job has its own validation.
Mm-hmm.
My photography is only validated by the amount of content I create and by the amount of likes I get on Facebook for pictures, or the amount of people texting me to say, "We liked your work, will you do my photos?"
Mm-hmm.
It strokes my ego quite a lot. So, yeah, that is, yeah, that was a hard one. Yeah, what does it say? I don't know. Like, it says, on one hand, it says, yes, I care about my health. I can see, like, cognitively, I can see
Of
that,
course you
but
can, because
but
you're.
also it says that, no, well, I guess I'm not a good photographer. Guess I'm not managing my business. Guess my clients won't like me now. They're not gonna like me. They're gonna be like, oh, she sucks. Can't use her anymore.
Yeah. So again, I'm gonna try to, and we're cutting it close here, but
I know.
I'm gonna try to like I'm gonna try to pin you down a little bit and say like when I said like I don't think that you care as much about what other people think as much as like what you think about yourself. So like I'm gonna ask that part of you that you were like, oh geez, yeah, that one hits the nail on the head. That part of you, what does that part say when you say, no, I can't take this business?
That I have. I must be screwing up because I've taken on too much. I made a commitment and I'm failing, and I always live up to my commitments, and so now I can't do my commitment to myself or my business or whatever. I can't make the pretty pictures. So therefore, that's it. Can't do it. and I'm missing, yeah, like I'm
I
not getting my straight A.
I
I'm not
failed.
giving myself an A. I failed. Yeah.
You either get an A plus or you fail.
Basically, yeah.
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 So here's what God, this hour went by fast. Here's what I'm gonna sort of like. Hopefully this is a good bow. Here's what I'm gonna sort of like leave you with.
Okay.
That voice you have no control over. You can't do anything about that voice. I mean,
Are
like,
you sure? Are you sure I can't control it?
you can battle against it and you'll win sometimes. But it's also going first of all, it's going to cause you a tremendous amount of suffering because you're going to be fighting against it all the time. And second of all, you're also going to lose a lot, and whenever you lose, then not only is it going to beat you up, but then you're also going to beat yourself up for losing against it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that, like,
And beat myself up for having the conversation that I know I shouldn't have, because I know I should know better than to have the
and it's
conversation.
just going to keep going forever and be this infinite misery loop.
Yep, and I'm not doing the derogatory crazy symbol. I'm doing the loop in my head.
Yep.
The loop, the loop, the loop.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so like whether we continue to work together or not, Sandy, I think that like what I would like to leave you with and what like I would like suggest for like homework or whatever is to, instead of fighting against that voice, be the amazing mother, grandmother, caretaker, etc. that you are with all of the people outside of your life to that voice. Sit down with that voice and say, "Hey, like, listen, I get it. Like, this sucks. It sucks that I'm functioning at 50%, and I hate it too. And right now, like, I can't do it." And that voice will like come screaming back at you and be like, "No, like, it's not okay. It's not acceptable. I'm failing. I'm a failure." And you're like, "Yes, absolutely. I feel all that stuff. I feel all that stuff too." And like, and here's the thing, like, all of that stuff that was taught to you, all of that stuff that you learned, all of that stuff that like created you, it's not necessary anymore. Like, we have an amazing support system. We are at a point in our life where like we can afford to do these things. We don't have to do all the shoulds anymore. I can like make my own decisions now. And then like and again, like, so that's sort of like the esoteric big, philosophical blah blah blah. And then like on a much more practical level, like doing stuff that you shouldn't on purpose and sitting in that and like continuing to have that conversation with that voice. And then the final thing is like, when you like sit down to meditate, a lot of people think that meditation is about sort of like, or like, yoga. A lot of people think that it's about sort of like clearing out your mind. And what I would say is that yoga is actually not about clearing out your mind. It's actually about just opening the bottle. Because what ends up happening is like the bottle sort of like those thoughts come spewing out. And like a lot of people, what they do is the exact opposite, and they like replug it. They're like, no, stop the thoughts. Don't have the thoughts.
So sometimes I picture them in like bubbles, and I'm like, there's a thought.
Perfect.
Okay, no, go away now.
Perfect. Yeah. And so instead of trying to pop the bubble, or instead of trying to like push the bubble away, you don't do anything. You just let the bubble float by, and then like once you realize like, oh, I got distracted by that bubble, you just come back to breathing or whatever it is. And what ends up happening is eventually that bubble bottle empties out, and then you are left with like the empty mind is like it's the result. It's not the practice. Does that make sense?
Sort of. I'm definitely still working on that part of yoga, but I'm trying.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
the trying is the journey. The journey is the destination.
Right.
Sometimes, right?
Right. And that's sort of the idea, is that like let those thoughts come. Don't try to quiet your mind. Let those thoughts come and just let them go wild. And then just bring yourself back and know that those thoughts coming you're actually doing it right. That's actually the correct part of the process. And then not to, you got to be careful, because then you're going to be like, oh, I get an A, and that's just perpetuating the cycle. So
I'm not motivated by a reward system at all.
yeah, and then I actually went off on a tangent about meditation because I do that. But what I really wanted to say is that when you do shavasana, do it not for the steps on your Apple Watch.
Okay.
Just do shavasana. And see how, like, see what that feels like. See what that, and just notice that. And when you were, yeah, and then when you go in to see your therapist, or when we continue to work together, or with your husband, or just, anyone in your life, like, talk about that stuff. Talk about what all of these sort of, like, conversations that you're going to be having with yourself are like for you, because it's going to be tough. It's not.
That will mean admitting to other people that I'm going to share this with them. So I'll just like, listen, I have something to tell you. Listen to this.
Yeah.
Listen to this.
And I'm happy to be that catalyst, surrogate. I'm not sure what word I want there, but
I think catalyst, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
All right. Anything else? Any last comments, questions, concerns before we sort of wrap up?
No, like I said, thoroughly appreciated this, and I'm trying to, in the most positive way possible, say, okay, well, cancer gave me this great reset in my life. So I'm trying to be very deliberate and conscious about like my life was like before my divorce and after my divorce, and all the things I chose after that catastrophe were better. I chose better life. And so now I'm at another great reset, and I'm like, I have to be so consciously, because I don't want to fall into that. Yeah, I don't want to fall into old patterns if this is my one chance to reset. So I sincerely appreciate a fresh perspective. Like, I love, well, I love a fresh perspective. I love a new idea. I love different people. I love people that see things differently and connect. And I totally appreciate you and your community and all of our hijinks and whatnots.
Well, and thank you.
Your serious level too. Like, I mean.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, and right back at you for sure. Can I tell you a completely, I mean, it's not irrelevant, but complete, like, I don't think it's helpful necessarily, but a joke that I was thinking of during our session.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Please leave it with a joke, because that will be me.
Yeah. Yeah, this will be our closer. Okay, so I you might have heard this one, because I think it's pretty popular, but let me tell it anyway. So there's this guy who is drowning, and a boat comes along, and the guys on the boat are like, hey, like, grab hold of this buoy or whatever, and he's like, no, thank you, God will save me. And then the boat is like, are you okay? And so, like, the boat sails off. Second boat comes by, throws down a buoy. No thanks, God will save me. Second boat sails on by. Third boat comes by. No thanks, God will save me. And eventually, the guy dies and drowns. And he drowns and dies. And he goes up to heaven, and he sees God, and he says, God, why didn't you save me? And God says, I sent you 3 boats. And I immediately thought of it when you were talking about, like, that you deeply believe in God, and also that, like, he gives you these tools. So anyway, that's... Yeah. I really like that joke. Had you heard it before?
I frequently use that with people that I'm like, yes, I know God wants to help us, but listen, this is what he gave us right here. This is like, yeah, God would like to heal my cancer, but also doctors.
But also doctors, yeah.
Yeah, no, God made people, so doctors.
Yeah, totally. Well, thank you again so much for doing this, and like, keep in touch. We have the Tantra Talks channel. If like, things start coming up for you, and like, you don't want to talk about them with someone who's gonna like, see you face to face, and you'd rather do it secretly, privately, so that you don't have to face the shame, feel free to pop it in there, and we're always happy to listen and try to help.
100%. Thank you so much. And I mean, honestly, what you guys, all streamers, but you guys have done on Twitch this year to help people through a pandemic, I don't know if this Tantra talk is this extra thing that is amazing, but just the general being a positive person on the internet in a world where we were segregated to our homes has been a wonderful, wonderful addition to a lot of people's lives. So I sincerely appreciate it. And to everyone in the community that else has done this before me, thank you so much for being brave and letting me be brave. So awesome.
Thank you, Sandi.
Thanks, Jack. I'll
Bye.
see you around. Bye.